borrowed the CB1000R last year and I absolutely loved it. In case you haven't seen that video, there's a link in the description. But of course, when they offered me this 2021 version for a week, I absolutely snapped their hand off. It's not a complete overhaul for this model year, but there are just some little tweaks that make it that extra bit better. So in this video, I'll tell you all about them and we'll take it for a spin. But before we get started, if you're new here and you want to see more reviews like this, I've got plenty of great bikes coming over the next few weeks, then please do remember to hit subscribe. The most visually obvious change to this bike for 2021 is the styling. There are lots of changes all over the bodywork, so let's go through them one by one. So whereas the previous gen had like a round headlight, this is what they call teardrop shape. So you've got a DRL around the outside and a LED light in the middle, and then it tapers towards the top. I really like it. It does look a little MV Agusta-esque. Not that that's a bad thing, but I actually think it really suits the CB, and perhaps it flows a little better into that fly screen and dash kind of area. There are a couple of side panels here that have been slanted forward and kind of angled down to give it more of an aggressive, hunched over look, and I think they do actually modernize it a little bit. If you were down low, you might see that they've changed the lines on the collector box just before the silencer there. That's a very minor tweak, but it all adds up to something that does look more svelte and sporty. There's a new aluminium subframe. Now that is visually quite a big change and certainly sharpens up the back end, as does the license plate carrier. So I know not everyone's a fan of those swing arm mounted license plate holders. This one's a little bit smaller, so I think we can all agree that that's a good thing. But without doubt, my favorite part of the new visuals on this bike are the new 7-spoke wheels. They've got some machine detail on them and they almost look like spoked wheels. The sort of neo sports cafe design language that Honda have applied to their CB lineup has always been a bit of a mix of modern but with some classic retro touches, and I think the wheels only add to that. They're a really nice premium feature, a bit classic looking but with that modern edge. There's still that classic looking Honda red paint job available. I think there's a silver one as well, but new for 2021 is this black edition. It's a little bit more expensive because of all the extra finishing, but I think it looks absolutely stunning. They've really gone to town in blacking out every single part of the bike. So the headlight bezel has been painted, as has the fly screen, and you've also got a black finish here on the fork stanchions to give them that fully blacked out look. I do really like these radiator covers as well. You've still got the CB1000R logo barely visible there because the whole thing has been finished black. And then these airbox covers at the back here, these have been finished black to match. You've got the whole exhaust system, so the headers, the collector box, and the silencer. A fully blacked out subframe as well. You can see that it's a natural aluminium finish on the other paint options. The actual paint on this bike is called Deep Graphite Black. That's not available on any other model apart from this black edition. And then you've got these machined footrest hangers and the handlebar clamps with a CB logo etched into them. On top of all that, you get the quick shifter fitted as standard, and that was fitted to the bike that I borrowed last year, and I've got to say it's excellent both up and down. One of the best quick shifters I think I've used. Now the third change for this year is the new TFT dash. I think they had to do that to keep pace with the market. They're pretty much available on any performance naked bike, and the old LCD dash was starting to look a little bit dated. Of course, with that comes some phone connectivity so you can handle calls and messages and whatnot. You can use it to manage all your riding modes from the buttons on the switchgear. And in terms of layout, Honda do have a sort of sterile aesthetic to the way that they lay out their TFT dashes. I think when I borrowed the Africa Twin last year, I said it was a bit like a hospital machine or something like that. Not very emotive, but it does make them super easy to read, and I think if you force it into the night mode, it actually does fit the bike pretty well. Anyway, I think it's time to take it for a spin, and I'll tell you more about what the dash can do while we're on the road. I think the thing that forced them to change the dash was the fact that the previous gen with that LCD, similar to the one on the CB650R, it was a bit tricky to read in bright conditions. With the 650, that bike is built to a price. It's a budget middleweight. Ooh, so yeah, the 650 is built to a price, and what they've done with the dash is quite a cheap fix in that they've changed the angle so it doesn't reflect as much in bright conditions. With this bike, you know, you are looking at a bit more of a premium price point, and so it seems reasonable to stick a TFT on it. But as a result, you've got mostly the same stuff as the previous dash, so a few riding modes, and then you've got the P
E, B and T, so power, engine braking, traction control levels, and you can customize those. You've got a gear position indicator, trip meters, fuel, revs, speed, time, engine temperature, so nothing particularly fancy. It's definitely not the most fully featured on the market, but the fix does what they intended. It's very readable, even on a, I mean, it's not a super bright day today, but I took it out at the weekend and it was a, you know, really nice day, lots of direct sunlight, so I found this much better, and I can see why they've done it. Like I say, it does also go black at night so that it's not too bright in your field of view. Look, if you just cover the light sensor, you can see it dims out a bit. I haven't found a way to force it into that mode like you can with the Africa Twin, but all in all, looks pretty good, super clear, and that's what you want from it. Now, they have also changed the fuel injection settings. They say that they've made it smoother and more responsive, I believe. I mean, even at low speed like that, just riding it on the throttle, it is very smooth. I can't make a direct comparison with the previous gen. It's a good 6 months since I rode it, but I'd say it is a fairly easy bike to ride given its sort of a performance potential. Obviously it's not chasing like the big 200 horsepower figures, but in terms of road bikes anyway, it's definitely quick. But yeah, it's not unusable at speeds like this. Obviously being an inline 4, it is nice and smooth anyway. This ride is just reminding me why I enjoyed, you know, the previous one so much last year. It's got a lovely smooth mid-range, but then it's got all that extra at the top as well. And at the same time, it's just not like crazy. It's not like silly performance. Apart from the points that I've mentioned, most of the bike is the same, and for me that's a good thing. Showa suspension, it is a little on the softer side, I'd say, especially on the shock, but that was one of the things that I liked about it. If you're riding it on the track, you might want to swap it out, but realistically for the road, this is actually a nice balance of comfort and handling. That quick shifter is so good as well, really precise. I was just riding the Rocket 3 up here earlier today, and it's a different experience on this bike. It really does go where you want it. You know, most bikes in this category come with like Brembo style lemmas. In fact, you get them on most of the middleweight nakeds now. But these are proof that you don't need Brembos for sharp brakes. These are Tokikos, I think. Granted, they're, you know, the same design basically. 4-part, radially mounted, monoblock calipers. But if you grab a handful, it'll certainly have you out the seat. It's just one of those things, isn't it? The branding of Brembo is so strong that it's like one of those things you look for. The CB1000R that I borrowed last year was the GP Legends sort of special livery. It was a race that they did for, or more like an exhibition for ex-MotoGP riders, and Honda put on some bikes, did them out in a nice colour scheme, put some extra trick bits on them, including an Akropovic full system, which was just so loud. It was fun riding it, to be honest, but after a while, especially any motorway miles and that kind of thing. In fact, I had to ride from London to Corby to pick it up and drop it off. And yeah, I think I was pretty sick of it by the time I dropped it back. It was so loud. So I didn't really get a chance to sample what it sounded like in its stock form. But this is actually really nice. It's louder than I expected it to be. Bassier as well. But it's not obnoxious or too annoying. Oh. It really is quite pronounced actually. You see the dyno charts and you think, oh, you know, it's just like theoretical, but I think that might be what makes it so easy to ride at lower speeds. Below 6,000 revs, it's like a nice little countryside meander kind of bike, and perfectly reasonable around town. But if you just hold a constant throttle and let it climb, you really do feel it start to rush when you get to 6 and up through to 8. Oh my gosh, what was that? Flipping heck. What a bike. I love it. It's just like, you don't need more than this for messing about on the road. It's loads of fun. And fairly modestly spec'd as well. Like I say, not dripping in Brembos and Öhlins and all that, but it's certainly good enough for my ability levels anyway. I hope you've enjoyed this little video with the CB1000R. If you're thinking of, you know, taking one for a test ride, I definitely encourage you to. Any questions as well, leave them in the comments below. I'll try and get back to you. And if you're new here and you want to see more reviews like this, motorcycle news, all that sort of good stuff, then hit subscribe and I'll catch you in the next one.